This next game was played in the fourth round of the Prague Chess Festival, the Masters Edition. GM Paramuktsudlu was paired against India's Grandmaster Pentala Harikrishna. Black has two knights for rook and pawn. The two knights are usually stronger, but here white plays a radical rook takes f4. Knight takes f4, rook b6 check, king c7, rook c6, rook takes c6, b takes c6. And here everybody can agree that this looks like a draw, where white has potential two queens, but black has two knights, and black's two knights will sacrifice themselves for the two pawns. Knight d5, b4, knight b6, king b5, knight e6, king a6, knight takes c6, b5, king c5, king b7, knight d8, king c7, knight f7, king b7, knight e5, king c7, knight ed7, king d8, king d6, king e8, knight e5, king f8, king e6, king g7, king f5. At this position, there are two things that one needs to talk about. One is that two knights cannot checkmate a lone king. But if two knights are there and the opponent side actually has another pawn, the two knights can, if they can, somehow lock the other king away. The king does not have the scapegoat of stalemate. The pawn is there which has legal moves, so the pawn has to be pushed, which basically means that one of the sides will go into zugzwang. The other point to be talked about here is that the white king here has 5 legal moves and only one move draws. So in Super Grandmaster games such as this one, it's very difficult or very rare that a Grandmaster blunders, but here it's just sheer percentage, as 4 of the 5 options are wrong. But let's see what happens to the very obvious king h8. This move will also identify what pattern black is actually looking for. So here just king g6, king g8, and knight d7, or knight bd7 actually, will put the white king into a prison where the white king only has the g8 and the h8 squares to move. So black will finish off the game with b6, knight g4, b7, knight h6, king h8, knight f6, b8 queen, and the very beautiful knight f7 checkmate. Now let's go back and look at other options. What happens to king g8? King g8 is met with king g6, king f8, king f6, and here if king g8, knight g4, king f8, knight h6, king e8, knight f7, stopping the king from escaping, king f8, knight d6, king g8, knight f5, king f8, knight g7, again stopping the king from escaping, king g8, knight e6, king h7, king g5, king g8, king g6, and white is back in the prison. And now again, a very easy checkmate. There's another variation for king g8, where here, instead of going to g8, white can choose to go to e8. And here again, just knight f7, and the same thing follows, where black puts the white king back into the prison. Now let's look at another one, which is king f8. So king f8 is met with king f6, king e8, and now knight f7, stopping the king from escaping, knight d6, and knight g7, knight e6, and after king g6, the white king is back in the prison. Now we've seen 3 moves that lose. Now let's look at why king h6 doesn't really lose. Actually, king h6 lost. Yes, so king h6 actually loses, which we'll see after, because this was the continuation in the game. Let's look at why king h7 doesn't lose. King h7 doesn't lose because if king g5, which is usually how black responds to this, king g7 is played, and then after knight bd7, b6, and once the pawn is taken, the white king cannot be successfully mated, and it gets an escape square. Let's say instead of here, black chooses to go with king f6. White king can just actually stay in this region of the chessboard. So this region of the chessboard actually is nicer because this knight needs more moves to come, and even if the white king goes into the prison, this knight will take a lot of time to come and deliver checkmate, and white will have a queen by then. So this knight has to keep guard of the b5 pawn, and hence the white king, even in the prison, is still safe. Let's look at what happened in the game after king h6, king g4, king h7, king h5, king g7, king g5, king h7, and here actually black blundered with knight f7. Best was knight g4, and then slowly the same position, coming back with this knight g7, stopping the king from escaping from the square, e8 square. Anyway, going back to knight f7, and white blundered again with king g7, knight d6, and slowly black got white into the prison. The good thing is that chess is a symmetric board, which means the prison can actually be along either the files or the ranks. And here, black chose to put white into a prison, not on the 8th rank, but on the h file. And now, after knight d7, white resigned. Why did white resign? Because black could actually finish off with, after b6, knight f6 basically puts white's king in one square prison where he cannot move, and only the pawn can move. And after b7, knight h4, b8 queen, knight g6 is a checkmate. So this was a very good example of how black can convert, or the side basically which has two knights can convert against an opposition which has a pawn. Thank you and have a nice day.